And here we are again, another haunted series. Yay! Hey guys, Melinda here. The last TV show review that I did, I watched The Haunting of Hill House, and I mentioned in that video that I wanted to watch the sequel / spin-off series, Haunting of Bly Manor. I originally had planned on watching a different TV show this month because a show that I had been waiting for like several years was coming out, and turns out it doesn't come out until next week anyway. So, to keep myself on schedule with my movie and TV reviews and my bonus content, I just decided that this month will be The Haunting of Bly Manor, which is the video that we're doing today. Next month is when I will watch the TV show that I've been waiting for years. I have a lot to talk about the TV show today, so we are just gonna jump right in and get started. For those of you who haven't seen any of my other TV show / movie reviews, I like to review it in a way that gives no spoilers, except if it's mentioned in the trailer, so that way anybody can click onto this video, get an idea if they want to go watch it or not, and yeah, there we go. Let's go ahead and get started. So yes, I'm going to be talking about The Haunting of Bly Manor, and this is the sequel / spin-off series of Haunting of Hill House, streaming on Netflix. It is a Netflix original TV series. First and foremost, Netflix TV shows, I think, are incredible. I haven't found a TV series that they've made that I didn't love. I did enjoy watching Haunting of Bly Manor, but I would say that it wasn't as good as Haunting of Hill House. Just to give you guys a brief summary of what to expect with this TV show, the main premise is that there are these two kids, Flora and Miles, who their parents have died. And so they need a full-time live-in nanny, basically. They call it an au pair in the show because it's set in England. They need a full-time nanny to watch and take care of the kids and put them through school, homeschool, and a full-time babysitter, basically. They hire Danny, so she comes to the house and is their new caretaker and teacher and babysitter, nanny, etc., etc. And then we find along the way that, of course, the Bly Manor, is haunted, and it seems that the kids know about it, but the nanny does not. So there's some wacky situations and some really confusing, interesting aspects that come with it, but that is the general basis of the storyline. If I say any more, I will be giving spoilers. So, there you go. I would classify this season primarily as kind of a thriller drama series versus a horror. You know, if you put haunting in the name of the title, I'm gonna want it to be scary. I'm gonna want it to be a horror series, which it just did not feel like that to me. It felt more on the thriller, suspenseful kind of side of it, which, don't get me wrong, I absolutely love that. That's my favorite genre. You know, I was just expecting more from the show, and I just feel unsatisfied, I guess, in that regard. What I absolutely love is that they use several of the same actors from Haunting of Hill House in this season. It reminds me a lot of like American Horror Story, where each season is a different genre and a different story, but they use the same actors, so it's interesting to see them play different kind of roles every season. So I absolutely love that they use some of the same actors and actresses, and I loved and enjoyed seeing their portrayal of these characters. The ones that are from Hill House that are in this season as well, and I apologize if I say any of their names wrong, I don't mean to. We have Victoria Pedretti, Oliver Jackson Cohen, Kate Segal, Henry Thomas, and Carla Gugino. I still don't know how to say her name, and I feel horrible. I am thinking, structure-wise, this season is very similar to Haunting of Hill House. The first 5 episodes are primarily zoned in on a single character, and we get their backstory and their character development. Basically, we focus on that character for the entire episode. And then episode 6 is when the show actually takes off. We see the development and the story being told, and I just thought it was interesting how they kind of follow the same story arc. Not that that's a bad thing, because it worked and it told the story and it was a really good story. Just something that I thought I'd point out is that it was a very similar story arc that mirrors Haunting of Hill House. In this series, they have a lot of small, attentive details that are absolutely amazing and intriguing. Once you pick up on those small details that they're hinting at, it completely changes the entire outlook of this show. I thought that was something incredible and amazing about this season, and a very good note that this season had about it. If there is anything that Hill House has taught me, that is to pay attention to the background. And I was very zoned in and focused on when they had like these wide shots, these wide angles, so we could see the background, because that's when I knew that something is going to happen. Something is going to move, and I need to be paying attention so I could see it and I don't miss it. Let me tell you, if I didn't already go in with that mentality of thinking that I needed to pay attention to the background, I probably would have missed so many small details. That is something that I recommend and encourage, that while watching this, really pay attention to the background, because you're gonna see so much more than I think we would normally catch just watching this with a blind eye. As a season overall, kind of like how I mentioned at the beginning, how this felt more of a thriller versus a horror, there isn't a lot of scary in this season. In comparison to Hill House, the first season was actually very scary and thrilling and got my heart racing. This season of Bly Manor, it didn't do that for me. I didn't think it was that scary. I thought it was more creepy and eerie, which again is not a bad thing. I had high standards of how scared I was gonna be going into this. And I guess when you think about it, that is a bad thing. You don't want to have high expectations for something. You want to go in with a fresh pair of eyes and new sensations and just don't know what to expect. But because this is a spin-off slash sequel to Hill House, I was expecting it to be on the same level. And I feel bad that I did put it at that high standard, and that's what I was expecting, and I left disappointed because that's not what I got. There is some phenomenal acting in this. Every single actor, every single character was portrayed so well, and I think that they chose the right actors for every single part. It blew me away how great of the acting was in this. That is a really, really important thing in a story, because that's what makes you believe in the characters and believe that this could be a real story. So I just have to give props and kudos to all of the actors and actresses, because they played the heck out of these parts and did an amazing job, especially with the kids. The kids were absolutely amazing. I wanted to take a second to note episode 5 in particular. Episode 5 was one of the most confusing episodes I have ever seen of any TV show. I had no idea what was going on. I could not figure it out, and it was driving me nuts, because normally I'm able to follow along pretty easily and figure out what the story is trying to tell me, and I could not do that whatsoever while watching the show. Episode 5 is going to be so confusing and so frustrating, but you have to finish the entire series for it to make sense. Once I finish the season, episode 5 is probably one of the most brilliant episodes and TV episodes I have ever seen. It was so well written and gives you tiny hints as to the bigger plot and reveal that you have no idea that it is setting that up. It blows me away to think about it. I really want to rewatch this series, because I know that I'm gonna pick up on so much more, and now that I know everything that happens, just amazing. And that is a really great thing that this show has for it. Overall, it was very well written, and it takes forever to get there, but eventually it all makes sense. Something that I forgot to mention, it was one of the first notes that I wanted to make, but I forgot. No spoilers or anything, but this season is told by a narrator. It's being told as a story at a party, and I thought that was an interesting twist and take on it that was different than Hill House. Hill House focused on a family, their past and their present selves, and we got to see the story unfold throughout the entire season, versus this one is being told by a narrator. So we're kind of seeing the events happen in order, but yes, it is being told from a person. One thing that I noted is that I kept forgetting that this season was being told by a narrator. The narrator is really dominant in the very first episode, because that's setting it up, but every other episode she narrates just a small fraction, not even a minute, at the beginning of every episode. When I started to get very invested, I totally spaced that it was being told by a narrator, so I kind of almost wish that we got more of the narrator throughout the this series, so that way the audience could remember that this is a story being told by somebody versus actually happening in present day. And as you are going through the series with this narrator, of course, my mind and the audience's mind will jump to conclusions of trying to figure out who the narrator actually is. You have to assume that the narrator is somebody in this story that's being told about Bly Manor, but you just can't quite figure out who it is. And I will say though, once it is revealed who it is one of the best plot twists throughout this entire season. I could not predict it. I was blown away once I found out, and it was just so interesting to think of whose perspective it's being told by. That just absolutely blows my mind and just adds such a new layer and twist to this series, and that is probably one of my favorite things about this season and series. I did want to note, either I am really smart while watching this, or the show did a really great job at laying out plot points throughout the entire show, because I was thinking that it was either overly predictable and that's what makes me smart while watching is because I knew exactly what was going to happen, or they did such an amazing job at telling the story that I was able to follow along with it and know exactly where it was going to go next. So I don't know. I would love to get an outsider's perspective. As a screenwriter and a TV and film critic, I tend to pick up on these things. I tend to analyze it and kind of predict where the story is going to go. Like, my mind is just wired that way because I have to think of all possible outcomes. So I would love to get an outsider's perspective on how they felt the story was laid out. Please leave that down in the comments down below if you've seen this show and what you thought about it. I had my theories and my predictions the entire time I was watching. Some were right, some were obviously wrong, like the narrator. I don't know, it was really interesting to just kind of follow along with it and think either I know exactly what's happening or they're doing a really good job at laying out these small hints here and there so that the audience can follow it easily. They have a lot of metaphors and portrayals throughout the entire show, and I thought it was just amazing and very well told, and I loved all of them. I thought they were all really good and really thought out. I have mentioned this in several of my movie and TV show reviews. I am very big on the how and the why. I love the explanations and when the audience gets it. One of my biggest issues with Hill House is that we didn't really see why that house is haunted, but with Bly Manor, we actually get the explanation as to why the manor is haunted. We get the backstory of the main ghost, and we get the story of how all these other spirits are there at this manor. They devoted a full episode to this explanation, and it was the second to last episode of the season. I understand the placement of it because it really connects and ties everything together, but I personally just wish we could get that explanation sooner, just so then the audience can understand and pick up on stuff a little bit sooner. But I think that it makes a whole lot of sense, the placement of it as the second to last episode. It just connects and ties the entire story together very smoothly. The explanation as to why the manor is haunted and how all of the spirits came to reside on the property is actually a very sad story, and I actually felt very sympathetic for the spirits. I didn't even care about the kids and Danny and everybody else. Like, I cared mostly about these spirits. Just leave them alone. Just get out of there. Let them be. So we're kind of moving into my last final thoughts. The very ending of the show is so incredibly sad. Like, I felt horrible at the end of it, and I wanted more. I wanted a happy resolution, but there isn't, which is a good thing because not everything is happy and not everything ends in a positive note. So I think it's a good thing that it did end on a sad note, but I personally, I just wanted a happy one after everything that they put us through. Also, the ending is very confusing and left a lot of unanswered questions, not good questions either, to the point where I actually had to watch an explanation video on YouTube to understand what I just witnessed, which I absolutely hate doing. I love when I can figure it out myself, but they just left it so twisted and so weird that I could not figure out what was happening. My last thought was that there were a lot of unanswered questions that I cannot discuss because they are very specific and spoilery to the show, so we are just gonna leave it at that. And that is pretty much all of my thoughts. Oh my goodness, this was a ride. Again, overall, I thought Mike Flanagan, who is the creator of both Hill House and Bly Manor, is amazing. He is doing such a great job, and I honestly, I think that this season was very well told, and it was really captivating and interesting. It just took forever to get there, but I would absolutely recommend. Again, it is not really on the scary side. It's more on the thriller, creepy, eerie side. Keep that in mind while you're watching. Yeah, that is pretty much it. If you have seen the show, you want to go into details, you want to find out what I am questioning after ending this watch, please leave it down in the comments down below. Let's have a discussion. I'd love to talk about this show into detail. Other than that, that is pretty much it for this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you all for the support. If you like this video, go ahead, give this video a big thumbs up. It would absolutely mean the world to me. And make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're not already and you want to see more content. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next video. Live life, always laugh, and enjoy the journey. Bye. I could not figure